Welcome to Beer 30 Live, everybody. This is Pete Wright sitting here with
Shane Corsetti.
Shane. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well.
You know, I haven't been here in forever.
I know. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
We missed you dearly.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
I feel like this is an inverse show today because I am back after, 4 weeks, and both Jamie and Mary are on hiatus.
I think that we probably alienated them a little bit. I'm guessing one because you were gone for so long, so they've forgotten what you look like.
Yeah, that's
And me because
possible.
I was such a pansy when it came to doing the sound for the other shows that they just didn't trust me.
You know
anymore,
what? That
so.
is not true. You know that's not true. You did fine.
was-
The shows sound good.
Well,
Okay, I haven't listened to them.
yeah, exactly.
But they sound great.
I was shaking
sure.
the whole time too. I got to admit. So I am definitely glad you're back, and I'm your welcoming committee. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I'm here for you.
It's good to be back. I was on vacation. We went to New York.
Yes.
I'll talk more about that in a second.
Yes.
It was good times.
Yes.
We have a guest with us. It's not just the Shane and Pete show today. We have a guest. Is a good friend. His name is Frank Bender. Frank, welcome.
Thank you.
It is so good to have you. I'm so glad you could come join us on short notice, even.
Very short notice.
And we're going to talk about your head today.
Which one?
Oh,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
Oh, we're
Yes.
like a minute into the show and we're just
Yes.
dancing on that explicit
Yes. Yes.
Just want to make sure.
tag. Frank has a slight hearing deficit, and we are going to be talking.
Plus a little twisted and warped
a
personality.
little more personality. What we're going to be talking about those, how you deal with those defining moments in your life, and talk a little bit about your experience recently, being in your head.
Right. My first college frat party. That was a defining moment.
That was number one.
Yeah.
Waking up at the bottom of the stairs, passed out in my own vomit.
You know,
That was number
that
two.
was all part of the same
That was
experience.
right. That was part of the same thing.
I kind of have to interject here because the past 2 weekends I've gone camping, right? And no, this is going to tie into fraternity stuff here. So, the first camping trip was some friends that I met after college that I worked with, and we go on an annual fishing trip. We shotgunned so many beers. I haven't shotgunned beers since college.
Yeah.
And here we are,
where you-
almost 30. Yes.
Almost
yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Almost 30. Yeah. Still, yeah. I'm creeping up there.
creeping
Yeah.
up there. I'll be 30 in 7 years.
That means I've crept.
And now you're hobbling.
Yeah, apparently.
Then the past weekend with
Yeah.
people I don't even know, these are my girlfriend's friends. I'm shotgunning beers again.
Okay, so have you
Shane.
beer bonged or keg stand?
Oh yeah.
All right. That you're in the game.
I'm just
You've
saying.
manned up.
Wasn't this supposed to go away 7-8 years ago?
It's
Yeah,
the
actually.
recovery time is what changes.
This is the old school theory.
True. Anyway,
It tastes so good when it hits your
After the
lips.
past 2 weekends, I challenge any listener to a shotgunning competition.
Oh my.
Right here.
Right here, right
John
here.
Barleycorns, McMinimans.
Yes.
Send us an email at the show at beer30live.com. The beer shotgun. I don't even know if they have cans here.
Well, we can bring them.
We'll
We'll do it in the parking lot.
I think a Schlitz malt liquor.
Yeah.
I don't.
Whatever works for me.
I don't know that we
Old
ever
English.
intended this show to be that kind of a show, but I'm glad it's going that
I just all of a
direction.
sudden got pumped up though about. Well, Frank brought up. He loosened it up with his
Yeah,
comment.
sorry
Well,
about
that's
that,
true
guys.
because you were a frat guy too, right?
President.
I would.
as was
I would
I.
also like to put. We're gonna do.
As was I.
See?
Wait a minute.
What house?
Of
Beta
what?
Theta Pi.
Really?
Yes.
I'm ATO.
Wow, nice.
So.
ATO. So which one's
Omegas.
more popular?
Depends on what
Depends.
campus.
Yeah, it depends on campus.
Okay.
On the University of
Generally.
Oregon campus, I would say the betas were larger, a little more aggressive.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to University of Idaho.
Oh, you're not even in the same realm. So in Idaho,
Pete.
what?
Pete. I mean, look at me. Would I be in a fraternity with a bunch of schmucks?
Okay, I get it. So
all right.
you were the president of the coolest.
Right.
Or that's what we're getting. And Frank,
I actually was part of a group that reactivated a chapter that had gone under. That was one of the strongest chapters on campus for years, and then within 3 years, it was top house again.
God, I'm sure I saw a documentary about this.
It was
Revenge of the
1978.
Nerds.
No, 1978. John Belushi.
Yeah, there it was. There it was.
So
Fantastic. So you were the You were the instigator.
I was one of the grand poobahs.
Grand Poo, did you get the furry hat?
We had a few furry hats.
Furry paddles.
Now let's talk about this. How close were your fraternities to the skulls in terms of rituals and rites? Did you ever sacrifice any living things? Or
We tried for 4 years to get somebody into the presidency through our organization, like government.
You tried for 4 years. How'd that go?
Didn't go well. Didn't go well.
Now I am making I make a little bit of fun because I was not Greek. I sung a cappella.
We wouldn't have pledged yet.
We would have said being a geek.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I have my own little reunions. Ha ha ha. Okay. So what do we? What do we have to talk about in terms of the news?
The news. Well,
We got to talk about your story first.
All right. And this just came to me
This is
today.
so money.
This was in just a moment of clarity today. But so at work we had a staff meeting, and afterwards we always do some kind of just funky game, you know. So this week's was a watermelon eating contest, and being, you know, the fat guy of the group, I was chosen. I was chosen as a competitor.
Your big bone, Shane.
I'm
big
just
bone.
kidding. I volunteered, but so so we sit down and we do this, and it's this timed event, and you're supposed to get as much done as you can.
As much done, like ingested.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, you're thinking watermelon. It can't be that hard. I mean,
You
that
could
stuff's-
gum it,
Yeah,
right? You just
exactly.
suck it down.
Stuff's like going up your nose. You're breathing in watermelon juice. I mean, so afterwards I'm done, and I'm literally like coughing up watermelon, and it's
Did
coming
you
out my
eat
nose.
the whole watermelon?
I didn't. No.
Did you come close?
I got close. I got about 3/4 of the way through.
All right,
But I
3/4 of
lost
the
to a
whole.
man, literally, you know, about half my size, which is, you know, shameful.
That's humiliating.
Right? Yeah.
Surprised you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I gave it some time. I reflected.
Yeah.
Past
Good.
2 hours. Yeah.
Good.
But then it got me thinking about, you know, these competitive eaters that are out there that do this. I don't know if they do it for a living, but I mean, there's some serious money involved in this stuff and prize money. And it got me thinking about the amount of food that they ingest in some of these competitions. Now, I had a quarter slice of a watermelon, right? And I couldn't eat this thing. So I went on the International Federation of Competitive Eating website.
Now this is where it gets good.
This is where it gets good. And I wanted to look at some of the records, and they didn't have watermelon on there. At least I didn't see it. But one dude ate 7.5 slices of a 24-inch pizza. So 24-inch pizza, that's a big pizza.
Yeah. All right. That's
He did it in 7.5 slices,
7.5 slices.
15 minutes.
How long?
15 minutes.
That's a lot of dough. That's the problem with the pizzas.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
the
lot of
cheese
bread and
and-
cheese. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably weighed 6 pounds. That
Yeah.
pizza.
Okay. So this other guy, Eric
All right.
Booker, downed 15 burritos in 8 minutes. 15
Do we know anything about the burritos?
They gave the name of the burrito. It's some like company. You know, companies sponsor these
Okay.
things. But I mean, a burrito. I mean,
Yeah.
6 of them. Or wait, 15 of them in 8 minutes. 15 in 8 minutes.
Like almost 2 burritos
a minute.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to throw out a couple more. 6 pounds of baked beans.
But the good thing is, it leaves you at 12 pounds. That's the nice thing.
6
Exponentially exit.
6 pounds of baked beans. Guess the time on this?
6 pounds of baked beans.
I want to. You're gonna like.
6 pounds is like this.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's.
I'm just a minute 48 seconds.
What?
No.
What?
A minute 48 seconds.
That's insane.
You got to be drinking that stuff.
You're
I mean,
slurping it or something.
but imagine the gas afterwards. That's
Oh my
that's
god.
point.
Oh my god.
Okay.
You know, the greenhouse effect is impacted by this.
Yeah,
kind
no
of thing.
kidding.
Yeah,
You
somebody
probably
should look
start
into
a
this.
car, you know, fuel a car off this stuff.
You should start a cause.
Okay.
A nonprofit.
26 large cannolis. Holy cannoli. You know, those cannolis that are like Italian desserts.
Yeah, with the
pastry
like,
inside.
Pastry and feta,
Pastry,
or
yeah,
some cheese, or
cheese, like-
something inside.
Mascarpone or something.
Yeah, that's right.
6 minutes. 26 of them in 6 minutes. 26 cannolis.
It's over 10 minutes.
How about this one?
God.
7.65 pounds of ribs. It didn't give a time, but 7.65 pounds of ribs.
Right.
a lot of meat. And the
But we
last
don't
one-
have a time on that
Yeah,
one.
last one.
That'd be like taking my inner tube that I have right now
Right.
around my
And
stomach
Ingesting.
And eating
and
it.
eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And masticating it.
Well, that's really 10 pounds, but you get the point.
Okay. the last one here that I'm going to pull up, and I'm just doing this because I'm fascinated by this. I mean, I couldn't.
Well,
eat the
suddenly
whole
you,
watermelon.
this is a
And
good
these guys.
thing.
So, 66 hot dogs and buns in 12 minutes.
Oh my God.
This was done just
This is
this
that
past
little-
4th of July, the Nathan's hot dog eating contest in Coney Island. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's this
New
big,
York.
huge annual event. 66 by the same guy who ate 7.65 pounds of ribs.
The same guy?
same guy.
That's the little Japanese guy.
No,
right?
little Japanese guy. He used to be the number one guy in the world. Now it's a little American guy who's 165 pounds.
What do they do? I mean, how do they,
So the training that's involved in this, one, you know, like before a competition.
how are they not massive?
Well, that's the thing. So you would think that the massive guys would be the most competitive eaters, right? Apparently what it is our tires, you know, my large, big truck, you know, big wheel around my waist inhibits the expansion of the stomach because of the fat around it. So the
So what you
skinny
want
guys,
is muscle.
You want muscle around there because it's more, you can expand it easier or stretch it easier or whatever, you know.
You're saying if I worked out, I could eat more?
Right, and so they do. They work out, and they work their abs and all that stuff. And so, I mean, that's one of the things they do. They'll eat like large heads of lettuce before the competition to stretch their stomach out, but not intake the food. And yeah, it's insanity. So anyway, that probably grossed out a lot of people just hearing that stuff, especially 6 pounds
No,
of
it's the baked beans one. That's what did
I
it for
mean,
me. Yeah.
there's some magical fruit there.
Oh my God. I just can't. It's, you know what? You have to close your eyes and you have to think about the texture going into your mouth as you slurp it, and it just those little marbles of love, of protein love,
I wonder
fall
if
down
there's
your
some
throat.
bacon in there too.
You know, that's it. They
Really
should
takes
throw.
better
They
with
should
bacon.
throw some little hot dogs in there. Now, that's a meal.
Oh man.
That's a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Well, you should feel vindicated that that you weren't able to really hold your own.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
All right. What else we have?
I got a couple others. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to talk about. So
Bring it on.
this weekend, we are leaving the country's well-being in the hands of Dick Cheney, while George W. Bush himself has a colonoscopy.
My goodness.
I really don't know what to say about that.
I almost feel like we
but-
need a moment of silence. Although, you know, you tell me that, and I think to myself, so what's new?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that sort of par for the course every day?
Yeah.
Oh, hold my hand up like a puppet.
Yeah. So,
Right.
However,
Yeah.
would that mean if something happened to Vice President Cheney, then Nancy Pelosi would be the next in line for presidency?
Okay.
For that weekend, though.
For the weekend. What I'm saying, though, that's one step away from the first woman
Yeah.
being president.
That's true. That's a really good point. Nancy will show up all dressed in latex and zippers with her riding crop. And,
The zipper mouth mask.
I'm the president. Cha!
It's time to get to work.
Let's get some work. Come here. Make me some pie. This was, we were just looking at the executive order, speaking of the president, blocking, this was serious, off of whitehouse.gov, blocking property of certain
it's a
persons.
real source.
This is a real source. Not only is it a source, it's not even a journalistic source. I mean, this is on the White House website.
This is the
and
actual
it's-
executive order.
Yeah, and you translate it into we have deleted the Fifth Amendment from the Constitution, blocking property of certain persons who threaten stabilization efforts in Iraq. And this is referring to people in the United States as well, the president has said, we can take property, we can take, and we can incarcerate people who are in the way of economic or physical plant reconstruction or political reform in Iraq. So what are we talking about? Protesters, humanitarian organizations.
Companies that have products that could help that are not wanting to support.
Yeah, in
the
theory.
venture.
I mean, this is a fairly broad, expansive executive order. And we were looking, did you ever find how many executive orders this
You know,
guy's put
I
out?
didn't, but you keep talking.
I think there's a rule somewhere in the Constitution that says you just can't unilaterally change one of the amendments.
Yeah, one would think, but
I think I read that somewhere.
you know, I was
grade
thinking
history.
about this. Do you ever think to yourself, gosh, and this guy's out obviously, I mean, he's out in 2008. Whoever comes in after him, do you think there's a house cleaning of, okay, the 57 executive orders that this lunatic
President Bush
passed?
did that for Clinton. A lot of Clinton stuff.
They just repeal it all.
Yep.
Just
They
go back
through
in
and they
time.
take stuff they don't want or like.
Yeah.
A lot of the
Man, that's going
environmental
to
things
take.
were
Yeah, just gone, right?
Yeah.
That's going to take a year. Huh. Well, that's that's pretty much all the political news. Cheney's going to be in charge over the weekend, and while Bushy gets scoped, Bushy gets scoped,
Butt scoop.
and then he's going to come back and take all our property for talking out against the war.
Yeah, good stuff.
In better news, this has been a kickstart to a kick-ass holiday season, summer blockbuster season. Saw Transformers.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think?
What'd you think, Jenks?
Well, you first.
You owe me a Coke.
I asked you first.
Have you seen it yet, Frank?
Not my genre.
You need to see
anybody's genre.
It is anybody's genre.
Really?
I don't care what. I mean, you need to see this movie, if only to say, "Holy cow!"
Megan Fox. Sorry.
Yeah. And then immediately after, Megan Fox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with her at all.
Everything's right. With her.
I just can't believe I've never heard of her before.
Right,
I mean, it's just
yeah.
out of nowhere, and but the movie itself is spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so precious little story in it, but it was awesome to watch.
The thing though, like I loved it and it was awesome. The hard part for me though was at the end. Not at the very end, but the massive epic battle scene.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much going on that
Yeah.
was really hard to figure out who was on top of whom.
There was a lot going on.
So that's where
true.
I felt like the CGI kind of got in the way a little bit because I could not distinguish who was who.
Yeah, I mean, there were scenes in there that even seeing. I mean, I see a lot of movies.
Yeah, you do.
I was blown away by the stuff that they were able to accomplish, and it's hard because it's this kind of CGI. It's making a metallic object.
Yeah.
It's different than making an organic object.
Right.
So when you make these full-on characters like Star Wars, they did some really amazing things in there. But given what they were doing, I went in there saying, okay, I want to see if the transformations make sense. Like if it makes sense where the arms actually go. I couldn't. I mean, it totally made sense to me, other than the fact that there were no seams. When they were done, the transforming, there were no seams down the hood where the legs spread apart or whatever. I was blown away.
Yeah.
Made me want to, break out the old Transformer boxes.
And whoever did the Optimus Prime voice, I don't know if it's the same guy.
I think it was the original guy.
Was it? Because it was spot on.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And the guy who did Megatron, was Hugo Weaving from The Matrix.
Yes.
And Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it was good.
I have not seen Harry Potter yet.
Is that out?
The movie, yeah. The fifth movie is out.
Fifth and final.
No, well,
What were
fifth
the
and
first
current.
four like?
Okay, good to talk to you. The seventh book is coming out
so there'll be two more movies.
tomorrow, tonight at midnight. There's the big sleepover at the, they launch it tonight at midnight at the Barnes Nobles and wherever.
I didn't get the invite on that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Party pooper. But so that's it. And the fifth movie is out. And, I was teaching a class last night and all the girls were saying, Harry's hot now. That's the latest word. He's 17.
Wasn't he naked in some Broadway?
I did hear that. Yeah.
Harry?
He showed his stuff.
Yeah.
He did?
Yep. He manned up.
Flopped it out there.
That's what he did. He manned right up, Harry. You go, Harry. It doesn't really make me want to see the movie anymore.
Yeah.
So that was that. What else is out there?
I know what you're dying to talk about.
Always.
Let's do it.
I have it here in my hands.
Pete, put it back in your pants.
I like to hold it. It is my new iPhone.
Oh, okay.
And I got it while I was on vacation. That's right. I went to New York on vacation. We were out by a lake, and about an hour outside of Buffalo. And I had to go into Buffalo, New York, into the Apple Store and pay tax on this phone the night it was released, June 29th. Go ahead. Ask me. Was it worth it? Do it.
So you couldn't have waited.
No. Opening night.
And you're going to stand in line for Harry Potter tonight.
No, I'm not going to stand in line. But I did stand in line for the phone. I got there at about 6:15 after they opened the stores at 6. So they closed the stores for 2.5 hours before the actual launch and to organize. And apparently the people in the store, that was the first time they'd ever seen the iPhone. It just arrived. Then they closed the store and started setting them up. And so they opened the door at 6 and they let people in about 10 at a time. So the store was empty, and the first 10 gets shuttled back all the way to the back of the store.
Secret Service style, or what?
Sort of. You're in the sort of cattle lanes, and they take you straight to the back of the store, right? And there is this massive wall of these little boxes, and they ask you 4 gig or 8 gig. I say 8 gig, please, and they say, would you like 1 or 2? I said, I would like 1, please. And it says, thank you very much. And they swipe your credit card, and then you get to go browse all the accessories. You don't even get to touch the thing until you actually, until you have purchased it, right? Then you get to go look at the demos. So I did it because I'm a sucker. But the whole time, they're applauding you. I mean, you walk in and all these black-shirted Apple employees, they're applauding you, saying, you get an iPhone. You are so lucky. You're a rock star. They make you feel like $1 million.
Or a sucker.
No, really, I felt like $1 million. I mean, I felt like I'd walked away with a nice massage, and I felt like I just won a huge prize that I'd gone and spent $600 on a phone. I mean, that's insane.
Yes.
Who does that? And it turns out a lot of people. They said 700,000 activations in the first 3 days.
Wow.
That's a massive undertaking.
Getting it.
You buy it, then you go look at all the things, and you realize what a great purchase it is. And now I'm going on, almost 2 weeks since the actual purchase date, and I can say, unqualified, absolutely worth it. It was the best. It is the single best cell phone I've ever used, and that was the most important thing to me. That the call quality is great, but it works.
You've had your share.
I have had my share. There was a while. I mean, every 3 or 4 months I was getting a new phone, just because that's what I do. But this one was this one works as advertised, which is a massive compliment. They did a great job.
Just shy of half $500 million.
$500 million?
Yeah, $420 million.
And that was just in the first.
In the open
What did you say? The
first 3 days. And their target was 10 million in the first year, right?
10 billion.
No, 10 million units. They wanted 10 million handsets out
10
there
million units.
in the first year.
$600 a pop.
That's for the 8 gig, right? So if you re-average that at about $550, although they were saying that Apple shipped almost to the order of 5 to 1 the 8 gigs to the 4 gig units. I mean, those are yesterday's trash. Those 4 gigs, everybody's getting.
So tell us about the phone,
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, it works, like I said, exactly as advertised. It's got the standard phone features. The killer app on this one is the visual voicemail. I get a lot of voicemail from people, and I hate having to, if I want to get to the 6th message, I hate having to listen to the first 5. And here I can just see exactly who called, tap the name, and listen to that message. I don't have to wait through that. I mean, that's a killer app right there.
I would like that myself.
Oh, it's beautiful. The calendar is great. It doesn't have a to-do list, which makes me crazy. I mean, why they didn't have time to build in a to-do list? That feels kind of unfinished.
I'm not buying it.
No
to-do
list. It's one of those things that really grates on me. But it's got all my email, syncs all my email accounts. So I've got all my email always checking. I've got like 7 email accounts, and they're always checking. So that is a good thing. The web browser is unbelievable. I mean, it's a full web page. It's none of this mobile web stuff. It just works.
Yeah, you have your.
I like to have everything open all the time. My laptop and my
phone.
Stop talking to me. You make me crazy.
I'm just trying to bring you off cloud 9 a little bit.
No, there are things that feel a little bit unfinished about it. There's no doubt. But what they put in here works exactly as it needs to work. It is really great. So that's enough of the iPhone.
I know you
hype.
showed it to me. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the iPhone story. It was a really great experience, and you know, I mean, I really value the experience of going to hanging out with all the Apple fans. As an Apple fan, it was really cool to hang out with people who do that stuff.
I did that for concerts before, but
Never for
a
technology.
product,
Yeah, I used to do that too. For
or
concerts.
CDs. Sometimes I
Yeah,
did.
CD release parties and things like that. Yeah. Anyhow, so that's the iPhone news.
Cool.
I think that's all the news we have, right?
That's
All right, so let's talk about the big story.
Let's do it.
Frank,
Am I the big story?
you're the big story.
Oh my!
Welcome back to the
You're
show.
following the
let me get
iPhone,
focused
so
now.
Yeah, you need so how did this whole thing start?
Well, my mom was 16. My dad was 7.
Little
Back
ditty
of a Buick.
about Jack and Diane.
Yeah, I think they were in the old grandpa's basement.
You have been having trouble with your hearing for some time, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, to preface the discussion,
Yeah.
I have a hearing impairment, and I've been wearing hearing aids since about the age 26. I found out by happenstance that I needed hearing aids in my pre-graduate school program. I'm in speech pathology is my profession, and in graduate school we all test each other, and so I volunteered to get my hearing screened, and I failed. And
which is interesting for a speech pathologist.
well, yeah,
you know.
exactly. You know, this is my profession I'm going into. So they said, let's test you again. I failed again. Then they put me in the big booth where they do a very formal test. And when my professor's the one that administers the test and then has me come out and begin chapter 3 of counseling, I knew something was up. And he says, you know, this is what your hearing looks like. And I understood how to read all the documents, and my hearing was at a moderate degree of loss, which means that for normal people, whatever you hear, you'd have to turn it up almost twice as loud for me to catch it.
And this was now 18, 20 years ago?
No, this is when I was 26.
Oh,
Now,
26. So
yeah, what we didn't realize until I found a piece of paper that my mother had saved in my elementary school records that showed that I had a hearing screening in first grade that showed that exact hearing loss.
Really?
So, I mean, this is just all the preparatory background, but I mean, and I struggled in school all through elementary, middle, and high school to the point where once I got it, I was fine. But it was a classic hearing impaired child profile. So anyway, I found out I have to wear hearing aids in graduate school. It made a world of difference, not only with school. I mean, I overly compensated because I started doing very well in school once I kind of figured out, you know, the little tricks, sitting in front, watching people's faces more, looking for cues, using other mechanisms to learn visual versus auditory, that kind of thing. So anyway, so I've had hearing aids. They're called in-the-ear hearing aids, in the canal. Hearing aids come in a couple of different sizes. The smaller means you need less power. The larger means you need more power because it all goes by battery. And so the worse your hearing is, the more power you need to hear. So for about 5 years, I had the hearing aids that go in my canal, which addressed my moderate hearing loss. Well, over the last 5 years, my hearing started degrading further, where I had to go to a stronger hearing aid, which is a behind-the-ear look, which, even though I'm in the profession, I'm as vain as anybody, and I had a real issue with having stuff
over the ear.
Over the ear. But the irony is, in today's age of cell phones and earpieces and wireless, I mean, those look more different than what I wear.
Right.
I have people say, where the heck do I get a cell phone?
They're gonna be
I'm like, what's your
cool.
hearing? I can tell you exactly where I get it. So,
Well, and now the hearing aids you have now are probably the coolest I've ever seen because they're hooked to your watch.
oh, well, that's...
You got to talk about that.
well,
Is James Bond.
I've been wearing Phonak is the company that I use over the last 12 years. And Phonak to me has top quality technology, but it's the customer service that always brings me back. But
We're going to call him to get a sponsorship out of this.
Yeah, they're awesome. Anyway, it's a Swiss company. They have these are digital hearing aids because hearing aids used to be analog, now they're digital, better quality. They have multiple program settings that I can adapt to different environments for hearing, so I can block out background sound. A lot of times you have to push buttons on your hearing aid, which, again, it makes you look different when you're fiddling with your ears. They have remote controls that will do that for you, but they also have this thing that I decided to go with called a watch pilot. And it's a very sporty-looking watch that controls all of the features of my hearing aid through Bluetooth.
You can't even tell. I mean, it's a watch.
Yeah, and you can see if you just look very closely, I have volume control.
Oh.
I can change 4 different environmental settings.
So right now we're in a pretty loud environment.
I can cut out some of the
cut out
background
some of the
noise.
background noise.
There's also a feature, too, that I can route my Bluetooth phone to my hearing aid. So I don't have, so I can hear
You
the
don't have
phone.
to wear...
Right. I can hear the phone through my hearing aid.
Okay, that's so cool.
So it's a killer piece of technology. But the story that you want, so I had to give you that background because what had happened, I have to go in for an annual hearing test every year. The last 6 months, I've noticed my left hearing aid I thought was kind of on the fritz. Seems like it was, my left ear was getting worse. It's always been my worst ear, but it seemed like it was getting more worse. So I went in for my annual checkup thinking, just send my hearing aid in to get fixed and I get my new hearing test. Well, my hearing had dropped probably an additional 20% or more in my left ear to the point where it was significant to profound.
In a 6-month time frame or a year?
Well,
or just
it could have been
overall?
it could have been over the year, but I started noticing it myself over the 6 months. My wife definitely would say 6 months because just I wouldn't respond.
Interacting with you.
Yeah, well, it was more
selective hearing.
Well, that does work sometimes. She's on to me on that one though. So the other thing that was interesting, so with a significant, what they call a unilateral shift, meaning one side shift, they wanted to refer me to a doctor. Now, a specialist, and it's called an otoneurologist. And so I got referred to the otoneurologist to find out what the deal was. He starts asking me a series of questions. He goes, so do you have any ringing in your ears? And I said, yeah, actually I do. It started about the same time. It's called tinnitus or tinnitus,
right.
Ringing in the same side.
Just in that one ear.
Just in that one ear. And he said, have you been having any problems with balance? And I said, yeah, actually I have. I've been feeling like an imbalanced feeling, like when I stand up, I feel lightheaded, like I'm just got to catch myself. I mean, it's nothing too drastic like vertigo. He goes, how about any facial tingling? And I said, on the left side. I get these waves of a tingling sensation, like a numbing tingling. So he goes, I don't want to scare you. He goes, but you're describing some real classic symptoms of this thing called an acoustic neuroma, which is a benign tumor that sits on the 8th cranial nerve, which goes from your cochlea to your brain. So it's primary nerve for actually balance. It's referred to as the vestibular cochlear nerve, balance and hearing, to go to your brain. And he goes, this type of tumor sits right there, and it creates these problems. He goes, we have to do an MRI. He goes, you probably don't have it because it's considered a brain tumor.
Yeah, you probably don't have it except for all the symptoms. You probably have.
Exactly, and that's what I was like. Okay. Sharon, my wife, is that glass half full woman. I'm usually the glass is cracked and leaking. So
it's not in pieces.
That's right. And so I in my heart, I felt I had it. She was like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It's probably not going to be anything." I go get my MRI. They say that the results would be ready in 24 to 48 hours, and I had a doctor's appointment set 3 days later anyway. We're literally in the car 5 minutes, and the doctor calls, we got the results of your MRI, we want you to come in. So I'm like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
So we go in, he has the MRI up on his computer screen, and I see it as plain as day right there. It's the tumor itself was on the left side. It was sitting right against the brain stem and embedded within the cerebellum. And the tumor size itself at its low point was like 1.5 centimeters, and the largest point was 2.5 centimeters.
Wow.
Now, the tumor itself is a slow-growing tumor of 2 to 4 millimeters a year. So there's a high likelihood I've had this in my head for 8 years or better.
What? And it's just collection of benign cells. Where did it come from? What is it? How does it start?
there's another term they use for it. It's called a schwannoma, and they're
They don't.
I know all these names. Apparently, there are Schwann cells, which is I don't know the technical aspect of what the Schwann cells do. I'm not an audiologist, but I have an overproduction. I have a hyper producing Schwann
You
center.
got a big Schwann.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and what it does is it builds up like a little mass, I think.
Okay.
So we find out we have this tumor. Now, there's 3 ways to go about dealing with this. Nothing. And if it's a slow-growing tumor...
It'll get progressively worse over time.
It will. And because mine was at a size that once it starts impeding or pushing into or compressing into the brainstem, that's not good. Brainstem is not good to mess with.
Yeah.
So that means I had 2 other options: surgery or what they call gamma knife radiation therapy. It's a radiation approach to zap the tumor, in essence.
Okay, so let's talk first about the surgery.
Okay.
What is involved with the surgery? Is the drilling into your head surgery,
Basically.
and they go in and excise the tumor.
Yes,
is the idea.
And there are a couple of different methods to do it, but in essence, it's more invasive. There are some potential post-operative complications that can come with it. The reason people default to the surgery is because it's that mentality of, I don't want anything in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Get it out.
I want it out. Yeah, I want it out. And that way, when it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
Some of the complications, though, that I weighed and my family weighed into the situation was it's usually 5 days in the hospital, over a month recovery many times, and it's the side effects that worried me more than anything.
Which are?
Because that tumor sits next to a couple of other cranial nerves that are very close. There's one called the facial nerve. Anyway, if any of those are compromised, you could have facial weakness, like a stroke victim would have on a certain side. It could impact some other things. There's some other...
not to mention that your brainstem has kind of been growing around it, or I don't know if around it so much, but for such a long, for a long time, or for years, and I'll say you pull it out.
Well, in the old days they told us
Balance.
balance. But some of the balance recovers though.
But let's say your old day thing. I interrupted you.
Oh, this is to say the doctor. We were talking to the neurosurgeon when I interviewed both neurosurgeons and radio-oncologists to talk about best approaches. And he said in the old days, he said before they had all our technology, they would drill a hole in there, and Doc would go in there and just take his finger and scoop out the tumor, and of course grab a few nerves on the way.
Oh my God!
It's a little more delicate now and managed better.
Oh my God!
Scoop out that tumor.
Here, drink this bourbon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you real hard.
Exactly. So
now, but there's this other issue of your hearing.
yes, that's a post-procedural effect for both surgery and the
Gamma knife
radiation is that most likely hearing will be mostly or all compromised on that side, because what you're dealing with is that tumor sits on the hearing nerve. So the irony is that I already have hearing loss, which is unrelated to this experience. They say 5 to 10 in 1 million people get this. So it's and out of all the brain tumors, represents about 5 to 8% of all brain tumors. So it's low incidence.
Yeah.
So yes, I'll lose my hearing. What hearing I have left in my left side is projected to be entirely lost and degrade over the next year.
Over the next year,
most likely, because as the tumor is from the radiation. Now, if I had surgery, it would be probably fairly instantaneous.
Okay. Now, so gets to the point. You ended up going with the gamma knife radiation.
I went with the gamma knife radiation for a couple of reasons. One, we again interviewed the 2 types of doctors. Very, great interviews. They were open to all the questions and concerns that we had, and the radiation offered one, less invasiveness. It was I was an outpatient that day. What it entails, I'll tell you about the radiation in a second, but recovery time, except for some headaches I had, and I got some medication for that, I'm up and around within a couple days. But what convinced me more than anything was there were less post side effects that I could have been dealing with. And when the neurosurgeon said, and I said, I know you can't tell me on the record, but if this were you and you had this tumor, which way would you lean? And when you got the cutter, he
Right,
says,
same, yeah.
I think
I'd go with the gamma knife.
I'd go with the gamma knife now. He goes, don't tell my surgeon friends.
Because he wants to cut people open.
Yeah. And so right there said, here's the surgeon saying he'd lean this way first. Because I always went back to, if I cut first, I can't go backwards.
No.
It's,
If
That's
I
right.
radiate, I can always go back and cut.
right.
So
Do you have to do the gamma knife radiation often? Is it?
it's a one-time shot. So here's how the gamma knife radiation center here in Oregon, Providence has one of the main gamma knife centers in the country.
Wow.
And it's fabulous staff. But what they do is they put me in an MRI. How many? 5 minutes?
We can. I'll cut this
Yeah.
part out. How long are we going?
We're at 40 minutes right now.
We can go a little longer.
Yeah.
This is good. Okay. Keep going.
So what they do is I go in and they prep me like any surgery, but they put my head in this metal contraption and screw that into my skull, because then that has to snap into a component of like an MRI machine, so my head does not move when they blast me with the laser. So I go in.
Now,
And
I think you sent an email to us. It breaks the skin, right? When it
when
they screw into your
they
head.
screwed in like right into my temple.
really into the skull bone, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the idea,
it's such a precision.
Yeah.
This,
Well, yeah, because I'm going to be put into like an MRI
can't be like,
machine, and they put a helmet on my head, like a metal helmet where all the lasers, there's 201 laser beams that will converge all around onto the tumor itself. Now, the question we had was, well, how come laser and gamma radiation going through my other parts of my normal brain will not be affected?
Yeah.
They said it's a low dose until they all converge onto one point.
That's why the
Mega
200
power weapon.
Right. And so
Whoa.
It's like the Death Star.
it is like the Death Star. Yes. It is like the Death Star.
Man, Star
Where's
Wars
Kurt
is
when
so
we need it?
important to this show.
Where's Kurt?
So they take a picture of my head, like with a high intense MRI. I'm all drugged up. Then the docs go back and put it on the computer.
But you're awake.
yeah, but I
but
don't
you're-
remember most of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had some good meds. It didn't hurt, but
Yeah.
then they put it on the computer and they map out exactly where those laser beams are going to hit that tumor. And what they do then is the lasers converge on the tumor, and it doesn't destroy the tumor. The tumor stays in my head, but what it does is it changes the DNA structure where it stops growing, and in 20% of the cases, it can actually shrink. So that's why some people choose not to go with this.
Because it's still there.
It's still there.
And only 20% of the cases does it shrink.
Right, but if it doesn't shrink, it just means that what symptoms I've had to date,
Stop. They
they
fix.
may just be at a fixed level. Now, with both procedures, there's always a very small percentage that the tumor will restart growing again. A lot of times with surgery, you can't get the whole tumor, and so there's cells that are left,
Yeah.
and so it can start. Those are chances that we were willing to take, and the way we default to it is that in 10 years, technology is changing so rapidly in the biomedical field that, if something were to change, I'm confident there would
Pete's
be another
iPhone will be
strategy.
doing it.
Yeah, actually, I could do this, at the table.
With the phone, yeah.
With the iPhone.
It's
Exactly.
too bad you didn't, didn't wait till these had hit the market.
So
And you did. When did you do it? It's been not very long.
Thursday.
It was Thursday.
Yeah.
You did the gamma knife last Thursday.
I had some headaches because
8 days ago.
8 days ago.
when they radiate, sometimes the tumor will swell initially, and so there's not a whole lot of room in that space next to my brainstem, small brain kind of deal, Anyway, so I had some headaches. They gave me some steroids. Doc says, "Have you ever had any experience with steroids?" I said, "Only in college." But that made a world of difference. I thought, people who live in chronic pain, where it's a double barrel, because there's no way I could go the next 40 years like this.
Goodness.
But anyway, I'm feeling great these days.
You look great. I mean, it took you a while to get out of the, hallucination stage.
Yeah.
but
I still have some good Vicodin if anybody wants.
Put it on eBay.
Yeah, I put it on eBay. That's what I was thinking.
the process of what interests me about this whole thing is the whole process of figuring out how to let somebody in your head like that.
Yeah, well, the thing
Mess
that,
with your
from the
brain.
outsider. You guys are good friends, but you speak very matter of factly about it. These are the decisions we had to make. These are what we weighed. But I mean, honestly, what were you feeling? Through this whole process.
I just told my wife this. my wife and I are in the profession that is associated with at least the hearing part. And a lot of times, and I know she will say about myself, I think in terms more clinically, I didn't realize how much stress, weight I was experiencing until this last few days, when I really felt like a large weight has been lifted off of me. We literally found out a couple of days after my 42nd birthday, and within the last month and a half, this whole thing has transpired.
Yeah, wow.
And so, I'd go through the process of like, it's going to be fine, it'll work out, but I know that there was that subconscious stress weight of, how's this going to change our family? I mean, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
We didn't have questions answered yet of, is this something that my daughter could get? So we had to wade through all of these things to find out if there was genetics involved, if there was just the ripple effect on our family.
What about additional side effects of radiation in your brain? I mean, I noticed you have no hair loss, your teeth are still good,
I am hoping for superpowers. I am really hoping for that.
It is the Death Star.
The other day
syndrome.
I focused on an item. I was trying to levitate. Didn't work, so I know that one's out.
You've had gamma radiation. I mean,
like
you could
Spider-Man
just
3
bulk
with that,
up.
Well,
you could be the Incredible Frank with slight hearing loss.
Well, the only thing that if I am a superhero, I can only fight crime that is ADA approved. So, just so you know, do not call
Proper
if it doesn't
documentation.
have proper
ADA documentation.
ramping or elevator access.
Well, it's got to be like a Batman light,
Yeah,
sign,
exactly.
Too.
So I could,
Yeah, it can't be like a big siren or something.
No, I have to have like the Batman thing.
No, that's right, because you won't.
I have to see it.
It'll be a series of signed fists. Might be very long, but
That's all right.
so now it's stunted as far as what's next.
I think what my wife Sharon and I are trying to do, I think we're reevaluating some personal things about our family.
Yeah.
Like we've been always very good about being responsible and saving, and it's not like we're going to just take our 401ks and go to Vegas, but we're trying to live life a little differently and appreciate more of the day-to-day things and family and time. I mean, boy, it did for me. It kind of, the whole mortality thing comes into play, and some of that's been hitting me just because of my age. But you start thinking differently. I just found out a guy I went to high school with too has like stage 3 throat cancer. It's like, we're 42 years old. I mean,
yeah. Well, and that's really, that's the thing that I just keep coming back to. It's like, what are those moments where life just punches you in the face and you're forced to make that choice? We just had a friend from that we went to middle school with, junior high with, who was, he's on a scooter riding down the street, and he hits a rock or something, and it falls over, hits his head, and dies.
Yeah, we have a friend that I grew up with again. She's a year younger than me. I roomed with her in college as a friend, like the Three's Company crowd. Car accident on the way up to Whistler this last Christmas, paralyzed waist down for the rest of her life. It's just crazy.
My sister's at her father-in-law's funeral today. He had liver cancer, and they gave him 6 months to a year, and just short of a year, he was on life support, and they pulled him off.
So it makes you just. For me, I'm trying real hard. I'm usually not like this. My wife Sharon is. She's really good at this. Prioritizing and balance.
Yeah.
And so I'm continuing to try to learn more from her in that respect. But I couldn't have done this without her, man. She was a rock.
Yeah.
So.
Did you find you get stuck in the research? Like when they present you with this, you're a pretty studious guy.
Yeah, and because I'm familiar with the field, I tell
Probably
you,
your biggest curse.
Yeah, for anybody listening, these are the signs for an acoustic neuroma, and it's something you shouldn't, because it is slow growing. But if you have unilateral or one-sided sharp, drastic hearing loss, and combined with the ringing in the ear, those are some classic signs. There are some good information out. There's good information on the web, but the House Institute in California, I think it's Orange County, is one of the best in the country on information, and the National Acoustic Neuroma Association, which I'm now a member, card carrying.
You're like a poster child,
Basically,
actually.
it's a small fraternity. I'm not president yet, though.
But you're working your way.
But you're hoping.
Yeah. I have to learn the handshake and the secret password to get into the chapter room.
But yeah.
I think it's I say acoustic, they say neuroma.
They say
and then
neuroma
I
3
get
times
to
real
walk in.
fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I get in.
Knock on the door 3 times.
Or it's schwannoma.
Now you took a bunch of pictures. At least your wife took a bunch of pictures. Can we put those up on
Yes,
the
you may.
on
I
the
didn't know you
site?
can do that.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's technically possible to put images on the internet.
We want to put a picture of your Schwann up on the internet.
We'd like to expand your Schwann on the internet.
We'll make sure it's the one where I'm a superpower with the green.
Well, what I
swan.
hear is that you tried to get up and leave while you were still drugged up with that thing bolted into your skull.
Wouldn't surprise me. I thought you could sell that on eBay.
They don't reuse those things, do they?
Yeah, they do. Hey, but those were 4 big shots I had to put in my skull to numb that. I still have numbing actually on the one side. It's still numb back.
Do you really?
That's typical, I guess, when you get
8 days later.
Local anesthesia
In your brain.
in the cranium.
Well, we're glad you're hanging out here, Frank, and that you can hear us at least sort of in both
being
ears.
My right ear's my good ear.
Yeah.
For being an ATO, an awful tough hombre, not a bad guy.
Awful tough.
That's what we call
Hombre?
it. Hombre. That's what we called the ATOs in college.
Awful tough hombres.
Awful tough hombres.
Isn't that spelled wrong?
Hey, didn't the
Hey, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I forgot you're a frat guy.
Did the Betas have
All right.
good drinking songs that were just not made for podcasts?
Yes, we have plenty
we have
of
a
those.
few
Yeah,
of
we
those
have
too.
plenty of those.
We'll have to
Well,
put some of
those
those
are
in the
another
after
day,
show,
yeah.
right? Frank, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I think one of my professional goals on this whole experience is to share the information. It's because it's such an odd thing that happened. I'd like to share it with people and give them that opportunity to get an understanding of
where
it.
can people find you? Should they like to find
They
you?
can email me fwbender@comcast.net.
fwbender@comcast.net. What's your? You want to plug your real life job?
I'm a speech pathologist, but I am a co-owner of a business called National CEU, and we offer continuing education opportunities for educators and specialists that work in education, like speech pathologists or psychologists. We offer online video stream seminars that are great. So you can go to our website at www.nationalceu.com. Check it out.
There you have it, nationalceu.com. Frank Bender, fwbender@comcast.net. You can find us at
The
show at beer30live.com. I think for the last 5 episodes, well, I haven't listened to a couple of the weeks when I was gone. I'll catch up. We've been saying the wrong website. It's beer30live.com. And for those who have written in and I haven't gotten back to, thanks for listening. We sure appreciate you participating and writing into the show. And I think we're back on schedule.
Yes.
So we're hanging out through the end of the summer. Go see movies. Go buy an iPhone.
Go camping, shotgun some beers.
Get an acoustic neuroma.
And except for that last one, we love you all.
We're out.